Hey everyone, welcome to episode 2 of Down Once More. Matt here, just wanted to hop on really quickly and give you guys a little bit of a disclaimer before this episode. This episode starts out with us talking some about our first episode, our intro episode, and this being our first musical episode. The reason behind that is when we first started out, Rayleigh and I hopped on here to record kind of an intro episode, telling you guys about the pod, about us, what our plans were. That ended up turning into a 3-hour long thing with a whole mess of bunny trails and all sorts of random stuff, including like an hour-long reality TV talk on The Bachelor and Love Island. And the original plan was we were going to break it up into 3 different episodes, release them separately. Then when I started editing it, we got kind of talking about it and decided that's not how we wanted to kick off the podcast. So that got shelved, and we decided to eventually re-record it, and that's what led to the Phantom episode. However, after we had done the 3-hour long one, we recorded an episode on Hamilton, which is what you're about to listen to. That was our first musical episode. We're still kind of trying to get the feel of the format and how we want to do things out. So the first about a third of this episode deals with us it's a little more slower paced than maybe our first episode was. It's more breaking down Hamilton itself and the play and our history with it and our thoughts on the actual play itself. And then we get into kind of more hitting a rhythm, and it's a lot more just back and forth and free flowing, and we start having a little more fun with it. We decided to leave everything in and not edit anything out. However, I am going to put timestamps in the bottom of this YouTube video so that you guys can skip ahead if you want to skip, if you don't really give a shit. How I first heard of Hamilton, how Rayleigh first heard of Hamilton, or want to get more to the fun aspects of it, feel free to skip forward. I'd encourage you to listen to all of it. There's still some fun stuff sprinkled in there, but just wanted to give you a disclaimer and appreciate you guys checking us out, sticking around. That being said, I will now let you get into episode 2 on Hamilton. Thank you. Oh, and one more thing that I forgot to mention, and I didn't want to re-record, so I'm hopping on again. This episode is a little bit longer. It's about an hour and 40 minutes we're clocking in at, maybe a little less than that. Stick with us. Skip forward. It's a lot of fun. We didn't want to chop it up for the YouTube version. We're going to do it on the audio. YouTube, you get the full thing. You get it early and you get it all in one bite. So hope you enjoy. Also, if you are interested in seeing that 3-hour long first intro, comment down below. Let us know, and we'll see about releasing it. Maybe set a goal. Anyways, enjoy. Hey everyone, welcome back to Down Once More with Rayleigh.
That's me.
And Matt.
That's you.
Today we are joining you for our first actual musical episode. And that is not where we are singing the whole time. You're welcome.
Which is really unfortunate for all of you, because that would be amazing.
Yeah, and I should clarify, I said that's not a singing the whole time. You're welcome. I was saying you're welcome to you, not that it's not us singing You're Welcome as sung by The Rock and Moana the whole time. But that is also true. We will not be doing that. The first musical we are going... Oh, also, side note, we try not to say as much.
I'm just going to call you out every time I hear it.
Yeah, if you watch the previous intro one, I get it. I said it a lot. I was lazy and didn't edit them all out. I'm going to try to be conscious, not say it as much today. Bear with me. As we said, we're still learning, and it's new to us. So, thanks for being patient. I almost said it there.
I saw. I was waiting for it. I was like, oh, he's paused. He's going to say,
yeah. We're already off the rails. And
didn't take long.
No. And a disclaimer, you're either in for a treat or a train wreck, because it is currently 1:00 my time, AM, and
which means
2 a.m.
2 a.m. my time,
Rayleigh's time. And I just got back a little bit ago from doing the now old person equivalent of bar hopping, where you go to for like fancy pretentious bars. Like we went to Speakeasy and some other ones where it's like $15 a drink, which some places isn't much, but Lincoln, Nebraska, that's a little much.
You should
And
never
it
come
was
to
fine.
Miami.
They're good ones. No, I was already annoyed by the U this early on.
But
So
all he's saying is that he's already nice and toasty, and he's gotten a nice little head start on me, and I'm only on beer 1.5. So,
or the opposite, because I was actually DD, so I haven't drank anything in like 6 hours. So
he's hungover.
we'll
Then.
see. Yeah. We'll see how this goes. Should go good.
With that, let's actually do something.
With that, let's actually get into it. The first musical we're going to be discussing is going to be Hamilton, the Lin-Manuel Miranda play, premiered on Broadway back in on Broadway in August of 2015, off Broadway February 2015. So it moved to Broadway pretty quickly. The reason we're starting with this is because I just saw it live for the second time a couple weeks ago. So it's fresh on the mind. It's also very accessible to get to and watch for any listeners who want to watch before they listen. It is on Disney Plus still, and they have very affordable streaming plans. So highly recommend watching it if you haven't yet, or at least streaming the soundtrack. It is one of those soundtracks that I feel like it works even just listening to the soundtrack because it is sung completely through. So there's a couple bits that are missing on the soundtrack, but they're very small ones that aren't as big of parts. And so you're not missing things on the story by just listening to the soundtrack.
Also, I will say that if you're going to watch it on Disney Plus or some way, shape, or form without seeing it live, obviously live is better always. But if you're going to watch it as I have on Disney Plus, highly, highly, highly recommend doing it with subtitles on, because and we'll get into this, but the lyrics of the songs are so intensely written and so well written, but it's a lot jam-packed into like really tight songs, and they sing really fast sometimes, and they're rapping half the time. So if you can't, you need to read some of it to really appreciate what they're actually saying. It will just fly right by your ears if you don't have some way of reading it and accessing it, and you will miss a lot of the really good content and great lyrics.
Very true. Very true. I did not actually do that, but I'll get into it a little more when we talk about our history with it. I had listened to the soundtrack like 100 times before that, before I watched it or saw it live, and had looked at lyrics. So I know almost all of Hamilton by heart at this point. Before we get into it more, I'm just going to read the synopsis of Hamilton. So for those of you who have not watched it or don't know, I'm just going to do the Wikipedia highlight here. Hamilton, an American musical, is a sung and rapped through musical by Lin-Manuel Miranda. It tells the story of American founding father Alexander Hamilton. Miranda said he was inspired to write the musical after reading the 2004 biography Alexander Hamilton by Ron Chernow, which I started at one point but have not finished. The show draws heavily from hip hop as well as R&B, pop, soul, and traditional style show tunes. It casts non-white actors as the founding fathers and other historical figures. Miranda described Hamilton as about America then, as told by American now. And that's a really brief synopsis. Well, not synopsis, kind of blurb about it and what it's about, what follows. So, before we get into dissecting the story a little bit more, let's just talk about we'll each do a sum, but really, what was kind of your knowledge of Hamilton? How did you first hear about it, find out about it, and then listen or watch it?
So definitely the first memory I have of Hamilton was after it first started on Broadway, and it was all over the news. First, it was all over the news because it was selling out like crazy. Everybody was talking about, you got to see this musical. You got to see this Broadway musical. It's incredible. It's incredible. I had no idea the style of it or nothing about it. But what really drew my attention to it was when it was all over the news because of the cast in New York. And I'm sure a lot of you guys heard about this or read about it or whatever. It popped up on your news feed at some point. This is back in 2016, I think, when Vice President Pence came into the theater in New York. This is a crazy story. The people in the theater, the audience, booed him as he came in to see the show. And he was just there to see the show. But this was very, very soon after I think Trump was elected. I think it was soon after the election. It was already set. So he was already vice president at that point. Anyway, everybody in the audience, there's videos on social media that people were posting of just him getting booed like crazy as he came in the theater. And then not only that, but the cast, I guess, addressed him at the end of the show, stood up. It was after they had done the whole performance, they stood up and actually addressed him, and they were super polite to him, but they voiced a few concerns they had and some stresses that they had about Trump and Pence being in office. And it was very respectful, but it was very blatant, very like, we think that this administration is not going to do us any favors and we're not going to be protected. And so it was all over the news. And when that happened, I was like, what is this Hamilton show? Everybody's talking about it. Like, it's going crazy. And it was sold out on Broadway for like 2 years in advance. It was crazy how many people were seeing it. So having said that, all that attention and media attention, and I still didn't see the show, and I still had no way of seeing it. Really, it wasn't here in Miami until they put it on Disney Plus, and then I heard, "Oh my God, you gotta see the show." It took me a while to watch it, but I have Disney Plus because I have a toddler. That's my excuse anyway. It's actually because I'm really obsessed with Disney. So, but I blame my toddler, and I have Disney Plus, and I finally watched it. And we will get into Lin-Manuel Miranda and the impression that we have of him in general and of the show. But that is my history of knowing Hamilton. I'm sure that a lot of people, if you're listening to this or watching this, probably had similar trajectories of learning about it or hearing about it from that particular story or from that time frame when it came out, it being so popular and talked about so much. And then had no way of seeing it until it was accessible to us regular folk who can't go to Broadway. Wow.
That's right.
I'm boring you, huh?
No.
Oh, yeah.
No, I have, as I said, it is 1 a.m.
It's and 2 a.m. for me. So
it's 2 a.m. for you. I have been up since 5:30 a.m. though.
Okay, fine. You win.
So I don't know if I win there. So yeah, it's 5:30.
Whatever. I'm boring. I get it. Just go.
No.
Say your history. Let's move on.
Yeah, this is the me show. I can't believe you talked for like 2 whole minutes. So, my first exposure to Hamilton, very similar to yours. The first I remember hearing about it was seeing the video going around of the cast confronting, addressing Pence at the show. I don't remember exactly what was said or anything. It wasn't hateful, cussing him out, like you said. From what I remember, very respectful, basically voicing concerns and disagreements with policies and thoughts. There's the and so in my head now. And so that was the first that I remember hearing about it. I didn't really do anything about it at that point. A few years later, this was probably either late 2017, early 2018, when they put out, well, I don't remember when exactly it was put out, but it was out at the point the original Broadway recording cast on iTunes, Apple Music. My younger brother told me I should check it out. He started listening to it, and it was great. And so I originally I didn't have Apple Music or wasn't using Spotify or anything at the time, so I would have had to buy it on iTunes. I went through, listened to the little previews, and I was like, I'm not feeling this. This isn't for me, I don't think. So I didn't really think anything about it for a few months. Then I saw it was going to be in the town about an hour from me, the touring show. And so I'm like, yeah, I'm going to give it another chance. My brother had still been talking about it, and I had Apple Music at this point, so I could just listen to it. Started listening to the soundtrack, actually listening to the words, paying attention, and then fell in love with it. It was on constant rotation. My car, the shower, everything. It was going through it. And then when they have their touring shows, they have a ticket lottery that you can enter because it was mostly sold out by the time it came here. It was the first time it had been in the area back in 2018. Might have been 2019, 2018, 2019. It was before COVID and all that fun stuff. It was the first time it'd been in the area, so it was a hot ticket item. But through the official Hamilton app, they have lotteries for every city they're in and touring. And you just enter, select it through the app. It doesn't cost anything. And if you win, you get the chance to purchase up to 2 tickets for $10 a piece. You don't know where they're going to be. The seats could be split up. You just you have a chance to purchase tickets. I entered it, and I figured if I win, I'll go. And I was hoping I'd win, but I wasn't holding my breath. And I won tickets for opening night. So went with my cousin. It was great. It was sold out. It was packed. Everyone loved it. Standing ovation. All the performances were great. I was very familiar with the original Broadway cast from listening to the soundtrack so much. So, I mean, it's a little bit of a departure when you see it live. If you're so used to hearing someone singing it, kind of like covers of songs, you're so used to hearing the original artist singing it and their interpretation of it that when you hear someone else doing it, then there's going to be a little bit of it that doesn't jive, but some, like the gentleman who is doing Aaron Byrne playing that part, he blew me away. I enjoyed him. I thought he rivaled Leslie Odom Jr., which is saying something because he has quite the voice. And so it was fantastic. And it was just the energy and the motion seeing it live was great. And so I kept listening to the soundtrack on rotation. Then they finally announced that they were doing a Disney Plus version, getting to see it with the original Broadway cast. I obviously watched that when it came out. And like I said, we'll talk about all of that and thoughts and more in depth on the live show, the Disney Plus version in a bit. And then Hamilton.
Is this the part where I yawn for your speech?
Yeah.
Insert yawn.
Insert yawn. And then Hamilton is back in the area again now. I debated getting tickets. I didn't because I'd seen it fairly recently. They're not the cheapest, and I just have a lot going on. So I'm like, I'm not going to make that priority.
You're lucky to have seen it twice live.
But, yeah.
That's
but I
more
figured,
than most.
Yeah. Well, only the once at first at this time. And so then I decided to enter the lottery again, and I won tickets for opening night again. And so...
Which is one of those people who's just really freaking lucky. Like, I never win anything. Like, how do you...
Which, the mistake on my part was not going and buying a lottery ticket right after that, because I feel like
or in place of that, because if you hadn't used your luck on that, you could use your luck on an actual lottery ticket.
Could have won millions. So I mean, they were Tuesday nights in the middle of the week, but still, it was opening night for both of them. The second
such an old man.
So many problems.
It's Tuesday night.
I mean, the performance didn't start until like 7.
Oh my god.
7:30.
Oh my god.
And it's
3 hours long. To get there. Oh,
and I had to drive a whole hour to get there. So I didn't get home until like almost 1 a.m. and then I had work the next morning.
Doing that to you?
Pretty rude of them, but
Can't believe
I
you
should have just
survived
taken the
that.
next day off work, but that's not how adulting works
I
most
hope
of
your
the
boss
time.
watches this at some point. Just like, is that why you take days off work?
Yeah, he knows. He knows. I never take days off work. I have a problem with never wanting to take days off work because I always know that when I do, nobody covers for me, and then I come back to a shit show. So it's just not worth it most of the time.
Not
But yeah, so I saw it again this time. This time, I thought the person who played Hamilton, best performance of Alexander Hamilton that I'd seen, and everyone else was great, except this one, the Burr, I just wasn't feeling as much. Very talented, very skilled, just a completely different way, very aggressive and almost angry performances and choppy
Yes.
with some of the
Well,
words. And
I
so it's
get
just a
I
different.
get that. I mean, the Burr's character is a bit aggressive. He's a bit
Mhm.
angry in the show, right? It's written to be that
Yes.
way, although not so much so. Actually, throughout most, I mean, we should disclaimer here. If you're gonna watch this and you don't want to know what, like, this is a big spoiler alert. Like, we're gonna give
Mhm.
spoilers in this podcast. So if you haven't seen it and you're
It's
like, I
true.
don't want to know anything about it, don't listen from here on because we're about to tell you about the show. But yeah,
Yes.
Burr's character, like the fascinating thing about it is in the first 30 seconds of the show, he immediately tells you that he's the reason that Alexander Hamilton died. He's like, I shot Hamilton. He tells you that in the like first song of
Yeah.
the show. So, but back to his being aggressive. He's not that aggressive throughout the show. He's aggressive at the end. He's really
Right.
his character is more like building and building and building aggression, not so much
Mhm.
like out of the gates aggression. He's like kind of a gentle soul at first, just
Mhm.
sort of a passive character. I mean, passive personality. He's a very active, boarded character. Passive personality throughout until he gets to like,
Yeah,
I
I'd
have
say.
exploded. His fuse is very long, and then the end, he's like, oh, boom.
Yeah, I'd say he's a very kind of patient, laid back character early on. Like he's kind of willing to wait for things,
I think
one
he
might
even has a
say.
song called "Wait for It."
Yeah, he might, something like that. But yeah,
Don't
and
lie, you know exactly what the
yeah,
song is
oh
called.
yeah,
He's
I
gonna
know
pretend
the
like he doesn't
entire
know
song.
every single word of every
No,
single song in the show.
yeah, that was my point. That's why it was funny. It's not funny if I have to
I
explain the
explained
joke.
it.
Um, but yeah,
I'm just here to
so
ruin your jokes.
yeah, it's fair. It wasn't a very good one.
I know.
But I think part of that goes back to the being so familiar with how Leslie Odom Jr. sings it too,
Right.
because he has a very, and I'm assuming, I don't know if you listen to the soundtrack too, but from Disney Plus, that's your only exposure to that role, right?
Yes.
He has a very smooth, calm voice for the most part. Even his performance later on, when it's more aggressive, is still, I feel like, a very soothing voice.
Even keeled, yeah.
Yeah, and very even keel. So I feel like that was the difference. This guy taking the different beats, making the role his own. It was just different and jarring for me. Wasn't bad, just different for me.
Makes sense when you're used to one thing and you see something different. It's gonna be the way. It's gonna be the way it is.
Yeah. So
let's talk about. Well, I'm gonna interrupt you. Are you done with your?
Nope. Go for it. That's basically the end of my exposure.
Let's talk about the genius behind this. I'm speaking, of course, of LMM, Lin-Manuel Miranda. For those of you who don't know, this guy created the entire show. I mean, he is a freaking genius. He wrote all of the music. He directed, I think, helped produce, I think. But don't quote me on that because I am not an expert. I'm just speaking from what I think I know.
Yeah, and disclaimer for the entire podcast that we're not experts.
We don't know what the hell we're talking about.
Yeah, we don't really know what we're talking about. No. So some of it might have a quick Google search. 90% of it's not going to have that. So don't quote us on anything.
Please. Yeah. And don't write us any hate mail or like any like mean comments that are like, you're wrong about everything in life. You suck.
That's true. We know we suck
already. You don't need to tell us. Exactly. Anyway, so the guy's a freaking genius and he wrote the music for this show. And that may not mean much to people who are not show tunes freaks like we are. But this particular show, the music is completely different, at least in my opinion, than most other shows you're going to see. I think the style is so unique that when you see it, you're like, this guy had to have had some sort of like just level of freaking creative genius, because in order to write the lyrics to these songs, to plan the whole show, to see it in his mind, to create the whole story, and then he obviously also acts, is the main role in most, at least in the Broadway shows, the main Broadway cast. He was always the active role of Alexander Hamilton, and in the Disney Plus version, which is a live show in New York at the Rogers Theater, whatever it is in New York, the Broadway show. So if you watch the Disney Plus, it is the actual Broadway cast from New York, and he's in it, and he does Alexander Hamilton. But
wait, can I interrupt really quickly?
No, yes.
Side note, disclaimer. I feel like every major Broadway show should have a stage recorded version of it.
Oh, yeah. I totally agree.
That is my preferred method of watching them. I like watching the unabridged ones. I like film adaptions as well. And I think they have their place, but so often, like songs get chopped, cut, things get left on the cutting room floor. Yep. I want to see the actual Broadway stage adaptation.
100%. 100%.
Okay. Now stop interrupting you. Now you can continue again.
So yeah, just Lin-Manuel Miranda, freaking genius. Now, that said, I think we touched on this in the intro that we did last week.
Yeah, to be determined if that gets cut or not, but probably not.
So either you hear it or you don't.
That's right. That's right.
Lin-Manuel Miranda. So he is obviously a genius, but can we talk about, please, how freaking annoying his voice is? And I hate to even badmouth the guy, because we know how talented he is. We know he's a genius. But why is he so annoying as Alexander Hamilton? Why?
Yeah.
Is watching him sometimes is like fingernails on a chalkboard. Like, you just want somebody, especially when you compare him to the entire cast of like the Leslie Odom Juniors, who are so freaking talented, and their voices are incredible, and they've clearly been trained to sing their entire lives, and this is what they do, and it's just like, oh my god, you can be swept off your feet, and then he sings and you're like,
yeah,
it's not bad. It's like he's on pitch, but like, why do you sing like that?
Yeah,
his acting skills are like, I don't know. Is it an ego thing that he has to be the star of his own show? What is it? Why does he do that to us?
I think it's, I don't know. I tend to agree. His voice is just sort of the Randy Jackson from American Idol. It's a no for me, dog. Gift. But it's just, he has a very unique voice. And now I'm not a vocal expert or don't know the technical details. I'm sure he is a very technical singer, and I'm sure he is doing things in a right way technically.
He's on pitch. Maybe he's on pitch. He is. He sings correctly.
Right. It's just,
it's the way he sings.
His voice is so unique, and I feel like it can be distracting. I think part of where it comes from him, both in this and in The Heights, which was the first Broadway show they wrote, to my understanding, at least the first largely successful one, where he is the main character star in that. I feel like In the Heights is very, not really semi-autobiographical, but it's a story about immigrants, Puerto Ricans in Washington Heights, and mirrors a lot of things from his life. He feels very connected to the character, and it's something where he wrote the character himself. He wrote the music. It's something he's put so much blood, sweat, and tears, so much effort into this character, has that connection, that he wants to bring it to life with that passion. And I think he does. That's something that he has in the role that the first live performance I saw, I thought that person had a better pitch, but they didn't seem to have the passion and connection to the character that
I get that.
Lin.
If you, yeah, I get that. If you've written this character and you've written this show that like you pretty much are going to be guaranteed that no one is going to do it quite the way you see it in your head, unless it's you. I get that. But there's something to be said about stepping back when perhaps it's not quite right, and knowing that you've surrounded yourself with really talented people and that you are super talented at what you do. But it's just frustrating to watch, because I think maybe it also bothers me that he's not an attractive guy. And half of the show is like Angelica and Eliza talking about, I have to do that every time I say her name because that's throughout the entire show. That's how they say Eliza. Every time you hear her name, that's how they say it. So I have to
Peggy.
do that. Peggy. Yes. And so they're always talking about how attractive Alexander is and his eyes, and he just lures them, and he's such a good looking dude. And they even call him like this tomcat who's like a lady killer, like, and he's just, I'm sorry, not a good looking dude.
See, I think some of this comes down to our preferences, though. As we said, like, I know some people who think like he's on their hall pass list. Got a crush on the guy, like
for talent, totally. As a talented guy, totally sexy for sure.
Yeah, and I've gotten into arguments with people about his voice as well, because I know some people who love it, who love the uniqueness and the mannerisms and stuff he brings to it. And I think we're really doubling down on making sure he never comes on this podcast
for sure. Unless he wants to come in and defend himself, I'm totally fine if you want to come on and just like make your story.
That's true.
You know, make your point to tell us how stupid we are. I'm totally fine with that.
And I think it's something that he's okay with passing on the torch. Like when they did the musical adaptation of In the Heights, that was a film, not just a Broadway one. He handed that off to, he was involved in that he didn't direct it, but producing, and he was very heavily involved in the production. And he had Anthony Ramos, who plays John Lawrence and Philip Hamilton in Hamilton in the original Broadway, and in the Disney Plus recording, he has him play his character in the Heights. So I think he is okay with passing on the torch. I think some of those things, I think he strikes me as a self-aware guy as well. That, I don't know, everything I've seen, I feel like he is to a certain extent. I feel like he doesn't seem like he thinks he's all that and that he's so awesome and he gets it. I feel like it's really just because he has such a deep connection to the characters and wants to bring them to life. I don't know. And okay. I could be making this up. I remember hearing in like an interview, like part of the reason he wrote In the Heights in Hamilton and then wanted Hamilton to be almost exclusively non-white actors is to write roles for people like him or who look like him, who don't have as many roles, opportunity in media and Broadway and performance. And so that was part of why he did it too. I could be completely making that up, but I swear I saw it in some interview with him or whatever, that was part of his inspiration behind why he started writing those. So I don't know.
That makes sense. And I think he also purposefully casted Hamilton in a way that was meant to be kind of an FU or a middle finger to the fact that like it's like middle class white people who are usually in show tunes and usually in Broadway shows. Mm-hmm. And he purposefully put a lot of the founding fathers and a lot of the historical figures. He gave those roles to Latinos or like to black actors and actresses, and he did that on purpose. It was like that was I want to do this as a statement to we're not giving enough roles to / making enough of a splash for other actors who are not white, and totally respect that. Totally think it's awesome. I think that's a great statement to make. I just don't agree with him being the main character. I'll just leave it at that. I've said enough. I've done enough hounding on it, but I think it would be so much better if you had someone else there. That's all. Okay.
And like I said, the person that I saw a few weeks ago, I screenshotted his name because he was great. And I wanted to give him his due when we discussed it. It was, I'm going to mispronounce it, Idred Utomi. But he did such a great job portraying it. He definitely brought his own flavor to it and feel and vibe, and just it was a completely different representation. Kind of like I said, the guy who played Burr did it was completely different from Leslie Odom Jr. His was completely different from Lin-Manuel. But in all the best ways that I seen, that felt like it fit. It felt like he embodied it as well and had the passion, even though he wasn't the one who wrote it. And so I really connected with that, and I really appreciated and enjoyed that as well.
Fair enough.
So
let's talk a bit about Hamilton being a story based on, obviously, a real person and a real story, and is more or less historically accurate. I have to give him a lot of credit. I think he did a lot of research. I think you said this in you read this in your synopsis. He did it based on a biography that he read. But I am a history person. I studied and got a bachelor's in history. That was my thing. So not that I know a lot about the founding fathers or American history necessarily, but I'm a bit of a history person. So there were a few things in there that I was like, that's not quite right. And it bugged me a little bit, but it doesn't take away from the show. So let me state that, that obviousness. So if you're just into show tunes and you like don't give a shit about history being accurate, then you're going to love the show because it has a great story. It's great for the theater, and some of it is like not quite right, but he does nail it like 90% of it. I think one of the biggest discrepancies I noticed is the whole Burr Hamilton relationship from beginning to end. And I think the show needs to portray them as like really good friends throughout the show. And then at the end, they become enemies. And obviously Burr is the reason that Hamilton dies, and that is accurate. Burr does shoot Hamilton in a duel, but Aaron Burr didn't challenge Hamilton to a duel because of, in the show, he challenges him for the duel because he backed Jefferson in the election rather than Burr. And Hamilton gives this like statement to the press, to the public, and says, I'm backing Jefferson because Burr doesn't have any real beliefs and he's kind of like wishy-washy on his He did say those things about Burr, but it was not, that didn't cause the election to be swayed either way. It was like Jefferson did have Hamilton's backing, but that's not why he won the election. And so Burr didn't challenge him to a duel because he lost the election because of Hamilton's comments. That didn't happen that way. He did say some things about Burr, or really back to Jefferson. It wasn't so much about Burr. It was more about like, I vote for this guy. And then years later, Hamilton wrote some like really more not snide's not the word, like disparaging comments about Burr. Just said some like really nasty stuff about how he's a wishy-washy person and has no real beliefs, and he's like can't be trusted, and he's an immoral person, and yada yada yada. And that's why he challenged him to a duel. It was years after the election, and it was for a different reason. But
interesting.
It's not really a big difference. It's like a little difference, but it's one of those things.
I do remember seeing somewhere that when Lin-Manuel Miranda was talking about it, he said one of the obvious things is the timeline is changed a little bit. Like most of the
Yes.
key things are there, but for things to flow, obviously some things are going to be twisted. And I think the order
Right.
of the kids that he has is kind of shifted around and stuff like that as well. Like little things like that.
Little things. Yeah.
The
There's a couple of
main
other little things like
crux.
that.
Yeah, and one thing that I'd heard too is that it was also he was inspired when he read that biography about Hamilton, but that a lot of the Burr stuff came from the book Burr by Gore Vidal. Gore Vidal, which is it's a fictionalized thing. It's not a biography like the Hamilton one claims to be. It's more
Historical
fictionalized.
fiction.
Yeah, the more historical fiction. It's more loosely based on Burr and things thrown in there, and is my understanding of it. And so I think that's where they pull a lot of Burr's character from. And so that's probably part of the, like you said, the
Where
whole
he
that
took some
Burr
liberties
Hamilton took some
there.
liberties there.
Yeah.
Because really, Burr's the one who frames the whole story about Alexander Hamilton. He's the first one we're introduced to in the play.
He's the
He's the first one
narrator
singing. He's
too,
the
which is
narrator throughout the
great.
whole thing. Which I don't know. Are you done with the history thing? I don't want to jump us off and jump
Oh no,
back.
that's just one of a
Is
couple
there
of
more
ones. The
things?
only other one that like I was going to mention was, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, there's a couple of little ones, but the two main ones that I mentioned were the Aaron Burr one, and
Mm-hmm.
then he just took a lot of liberties with Jefferson. I think Jefferson's
Mm-hmm.
character, obviously, it's theatrical, right? So he's got a lot of moments where he's like, in his face and doing like rap battles with Alexander Hamilton, and it's like he's very outspoken, very like
Yeah.
vibrant character, and Jefferson actually was like a very like mild mannered, like very tame person. And he didn't have in the show, James Madison is like Jefferson's sidekick. He's like
Mm-hmm.
his like wingman, and that's not how it was in history. But I think there's one of my favorite lines is they're doing the rap battle in the first congressional, the first cabinet meeting.
Cabinet rap battle. Yeah.
Yeah, and the cabinet rep, the battle, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Hamilton says something like, we almost died in a trench while you were getting high with the French. And
Mm-hmm.
it's so like he took some clear liberties with like Jefferson's role in the Revolutionary War. Jefferson was in Europe and he was over in France, where he took over for Franklin, but he wasn't gone for the whole war. He didn't like miss out on the war. He comes back in the show and he says like, what did I miss? That's his whole show. His whole song is like, what did I miss?
Mm-hmm.
Like as if he's just been checked out for the whole war. Obviously he wasn't. Yeah. And he came back earlier than that, and he wasn't off getting high with the French. Okay. I know these are obvious things to say, but I feel like somebody watching the show might think that like Jefferson was this like hoity-toity, like free-flowing guy, and he actually is like a really like serious dude. He played a really important part of history, but obviously it's a show. It's supposed to be theatrical. It's supposed to be entertaining. I'm not negating that at all. I just wanted to point out that Jefferson not quite like that in history.
The character of hilarious. Jefferson in Hamilton is maybe my favorite performance in Hamilton.
Really?
Both at the live shows and the live performances and in the movie. I feel like the movie, focus on that since that's what everyone can access. But Daveed Diggs, just he's
great.
His movement, the blocking, everything, how he portrays that character is hilarious and great. I when I was talking to my brother about it first, when I first saw it live, because it was before it was on Disney Plus, I said, when I just listened to the soundtrack, the first half was what I enjoyed most. I enjoyed more of the songs in the first half before the intermission, the first act, not half, the first act, more of those songs. And then the second ones were more that I was like, they weren't ones that I really connected with. Seeing it live, I feel like the second act of Hamilton is so much more enjoyable when you are watching it. When you are watching, partially because of, like I said, Daveed Diggs and the other actors' performances of Jefferson, I feel like is so physical, and the performances and how they're playing it is
It
so
is,
much fun to watch. And some of the songs like Hurricane, and just how they perform that with the set of Hamilton is just fantastic. I feel like it's so simplistic in
Yes.
how it is and minimalistic, but
Yes.
with the rotating floor, and then how they use the props and the company, how those dancers and how they perform everything is just brings you in with its simplicity, I feel like.
Totally.
But like with Hurricane, when he's riding and then things slow down and they're lifting the chairs and they're swirling around him as he's trying to figure out when he's writing the Reynolds pamphlet.
The lighting is really good too.
Yeah.
Changes the entire mood when they change the light. Like, oh man, it's impactful.
Yeah.
And some of the company is used as props. Like I find that they pick up other dancers and they're like, oh, I'm just gonna carry this girl and then I drop her on the floor over here.
Yeah.
They're props.
They're resilient. Yeah. So I felt like that's, and each time I see it, I think I agree with that more. That the first half, I really enjoyed those songs, but after seeing it and watching the performance, the second act might be my favorite one. It edges it out a little bit, I think, because of some of those Reynolds pamphlet, and then you've got King George coming in and dancing on all the pamphlets,
so
throwing them and everything.
So good. I think that is one of the only ways in which I think you miss some of it when you watch the recorded version. When you see that it's still the live version on the set on stage, but when you watch it on Disney Plus, you're going to see like they zoom in on certain characters' faces when they're, and you get the emotion on their face, which is awesome. You get the face, they're super close up, but sometimes you miss the full spectacle of the set and the way everything gets arranged, because they put a lot of time and effort into the blocking and into like movement is so slow. And it's done all very deliberately. And if you don't see the whole stage at one time, you miss out on that. So it's pros and cons. You get to see their faces up close. You're like, man, there's a lot of emotion in their face, a lot of like really great characterization, but you might miss the spectacle of the overall show, which is obviously what you get when you go see the live show. You're going to sit there and see the whole stage at one time.
Yeah. And not to bring it back to our takes on Lin-Manuel Miranda, that won't get us any hate at all.
Bring it on.
That's one thing I feel like you also get with the recording of, especially Hamilton, with it was shot beautifully and they zoom in, and some of the shots that they get are great for the Disney Plus version. Like I just was rewatching it this morning, and when the first time King George walks out there, and just the shot behind him and how it's lit as he's walking out and almost in silhouette from behind, it's just gorgeous. But this is a Broadway performance. When you are performing on stage, you do very exaggerated movements with your face. And I feel like that could be where some of the other hate towards Lin-Manuel Miranda comes from as well, is because he is overacting like a motherfucker in it with his performances. And you see so much more of that when they're doing so many of those close-ups and you're watching it on TV.
On his face,
when he is actually like, that is actually great for stage performance if you're watching it live, which he was still doing it. They had people there in the audience, so they were still doing it live. And so, but it doesn't translate as well or seem as natural with him as it does on some other people. And so I think that's just another layer that can make that performance seem a little more jarring and grating.
To your point, he is not a Broadway actor. So he's not necessarily been trained in how to make those faces look believable from up close or from far away. These Broadway actors they're used to having, not only do they have to exaggerate their movements for people in the back, but they're also used to having the people in the back see them on a big screen too.
Mm-hmm.
So they're used to their faces being seen up close on the screen and far away on the stadium and the seats in the balcony. They're used to being able to manipulate both, and they're trained in that. So to your point, he's not really that kind of
That's
actor,
true.
that kind of trained actor. So he doesn't necessarily have that training. And I get it. It's just like, don't ruin it for me.
I mean, it's not like me. I've performed on stage before, and so I know how to give those performances. I was in like 3.
Give him some notes.
I was in like 3 whole high school homeschool drama plays growing up. So.
Homeschool drama plays in front of your mom.
No, there was an actual homeschool. There's an actual homeschool group in the town I lived in. There were like 10 people, whole bunch of homeschoolers. I played Hansel. The first one I ever went out for, I got the main character. I actually kind of fucked myself over.
Boy.
No, it was actually mostly guys, and then 3 girls that the guys thought were hot. And then all fought for their attention.
Nope, don't want to know about it. Don't want to know about the hot homeschool girl. Don't want to know about it.
No, nope. So
leaving that one alone.
The first play I went in for, it was one that the drama teacher wrote, so that's going to be great. Actually, it wasn't bad.
Fantastic.
But the main characters were Hansel and Gretel, and I don't remember much.
How do you write a play about Hansel and Gretel without it just being the story of Hansel and Gretel? I don't want to. I don't know.
But I decided to go in and do like for the audition, like an Urkel voice. Funny.
Every Hansel I've ever seen speaks in an Urkel voice, so I don't know why you wouldn't do that.
Like did I do that and talk like that and very nerdy and blah blah blah. And
don't kill me, nerdy old crazy lady in a gingerbread house.
Yeah, and I did it more as a joke, but then she loved it, then ran with it. So then I had to try to project, and the first thing I'd ever done in play while doing that voice, it fucking sucked. I was told I did good, but it still just sucked to try to keep that going. And like the first time having to memorize all my lines and blocking and then all of that and project sucked. And I'm just glad that was before there was a lot of smartphones and stuff like that. Otherwise, that would haunt me. Yeah. Yeah, I played the other play we did. I was preacher that lost his religion, so that was fun too, and very edgy for a homeschool play. People didn't like that one as much.
Not as popular with the homeschool crowd.
Not as popular with the Christian homeschool crowd.
Did the Urkel voice also work for the preacher who lost
no
his religion?
No.
Where's God? I don't care. I don't want to do this anymore.
Did God do that? No. Okay. We're back from the homeschool bunny trail that everyone can relate to, I'm sure. To kind of wrap things up a little bit, we're not going to get into a breakdown of every song, a synopsis, all the plot, everything like that.
If you want me to do that, I will, but I feel like I will upstage you 100%.
Oh yeah. Maybe eventually, and that's maybe something we'll do in the future. If we ever revisit some of these, depending on what kind of feedback we do, maybe we will do a song by song breakdown and go through everything.
Or in my case, reenactment.
Or her case, reenactment.
I will reenact the entire show for you.
That will be behind a paywall, but made it seem dirty. It's not dirty. It's a very clean show. But
for me, sort of.
We'll do like a Patreon, get some money. Then we can both retire. But to close it out, just kind of want to touch on key points, takeaways from the movie. I might throw some in there, like I have been, about my opinion with live performances. This movie and this play is very unique as opposed to most of the other ones that we'll discuss, because the movie is actually the stage recording. So everything is the same. Only difference is 2 F-bombs are censored out, which I do have some beef with. I get why they did it. One, so it could be on Disney Plus, because Disney said they weren't going to put any R-rated content on Disney Plus. They're only allowed 1 F-bomb. 2, they said they didn't want to limit who could see it. They want everyone to be able to see it. Okay, I get that.
Say "fuh," which is kind of not edited.
That's the F-bomb they decided to keep in. That's my fucking problem with it. They counted that as the F-bomb. There is no CK. That is not a fucking F-bomb. So there's 3 in Hamilton. There's that one. You see, that was my wife that you decided to fuck. And then he trails off. Or at least V says it's really fucking quiet. There's that one.
Getting quiet.
There's when Hercules Mulligan comes back in and the world turned upside down. Where he goes, because when you knock me down, I get the fuck back up again. And then
say it in the movie.
And, he says, they do a record scratch is what they do in the movie in that one. Yep. And so, and then the third one, which is my favorite one, which I wanted them, the one they keep in, is when it is Jefferson, Madison, and Burr singing Washington on Your Side.
Yeah.
And they go the Southern motherfucking Democratic Republicans. And it's when that song crescendos and hits its peak. And that's one that I feel like has the most impact. And that was the one I was hoping they were going to keep in. And that was the one I was so pissed that it just got the record scratch. I know it's a stupid thing. And I know there's some people that really appreciate them censoring out the foul language.
Excited that they didn't say F-bombs in it.
This is a pro-foul language podcast. Give me all the fucks. Don't take my fucks away from me. Like the don't take my sunshine away, don't take my fucks away. Give me them all. All the fucks, I want them.
You just ruined a really beautiful song by putting fucks in it.
I think it makes it better. Fuck the sunshine song. But that's the only difference between the stage production and Disney Plus.
Good to know.
How they fucked up which fuck they used. Fucked up the fucks.
Yeah. This is the tagline for this entire podcast. Don't fuck up the fucks.
That's right. Wait till we get to the Dear Evan Hansen episode. That one, there's no fucks that were taken out, but they cut out like 4 songs and then added 2. And I have very strong feelings.
It's a bad idea. For people who love musicals, you don't go into a movie and expect them to add new music. That's not cool.
Little spoiler alert, though. I actually did really enjoy one of the replacement songs more than the song that it replaced. So one of them, good to me. Mm-hmm. The other one, unnecessary.
Terrible.
And my full thoughts, I had like a whole, so I use Letterboxd to do movie reviews and tracks, movies I've watched, movie site. And I had typed out a whole long ass review and breakdown. It was like, it would have been like a blog post on Dear Evan Hansen. And then that app crashed and I lost all of it. I was so pissed. So I will just word vomit all of that when we watch that and discuss that together.
When we cover Dear Evan Hansen, you shall go over all of that.
But for now, back to Hamilton. Rayleigh, I'm going to let you go first. And just tell me, you can do it however you want. You can tell me some of your favorite songs from it and why, some of your favorite moments or that you thought were most impactful from it and why. It's okay with you. There's any that you mentioned that I have counterpoint that I want to tag on to. We do this. And then that means you can call on me when you're ready.
Okay.
I'll probably do something more subtle.
Raised hand method. Please, can I speak? I don't know what to do with my hands.
Like a spaceship.
Yes, that's totally what that looks like.
That's from...
What?
You said, I don't know what to do with my hands, but it's from Talladega Nights, the Ballad of Ricky Bobby. And
Right.
that's
That's what
when
oh,
he says it, when he's like, it was like a spaceship. And then he's like, I don't know what to do with my hands.
Oh, I didn't remember the new spaceship. I just wrote, I don't know what my hands.
I've seen that movie twice, and once was in theaters with my father. He took my brother and I because the commercials had looked
I'm sure
funny.
that was plenty awkward.
Afterwards, he said, you don't need to tell your mom much about that. So there was instant regret when we left the theater that he took us to
that has
movie.
lived with him. He's been buried in his soul. He took his son to see that movie. He'll never forgive himself.
Yeah. So, okay.
Anyway,
a little fun tidbit. Take it away.
Okay, so I will have to say, song-wise, no, let me back it up. I'm going to go with performance first and then song, because performance-wise, I think there's one part that just like knocks me on my ass when I watch this. And look, it's important to say, if anybody's not seen this show, most of it is funny, right? Most of it is a really funny show. It's comic relief here, left, right, center, comic everywhere, and really intensely funny, like intelligently funny. But oh my God, the emotional parts are like, I don't know if I'm going to recover from this when I watch it. Every time I'm just like, oh my. Okay, so the thing that really hits me, obviously, is the really obvious part, but when his son dies, when Philip dies, I lose my shit when I watch that scene. And what's really awesome is that the actors who have done this show like thousands of times. They've done these lines thousands of times. They've acted this part thousands of times. Eliza cries. She actually literally sheds tears on stage in this scene when her son Philip dies, and she loses it. I have a son. And so watching that, I'm like, shit balls, I can't take it. Like my heart, it's so good. And then
teach him not to duel. Don't duel.
I will instruct him. Actually, honorable mention here, song-wise, probably in my top 5. No, for sure in my top 5, maybe in the top 3. 10 Duel Commandments. Amazing. And
that's one that the visual aspect is just like with the stage and just the choreography. So good.
Stupid good.
So good.
The lyrics are great. The choreography is great. The concept of it is so cool that they're taking you basically through the entire setup for the duel. And they do it twice in the show. They do it a little bit differently both times. But the first time when you see it, like he takes you literally the 10 commandments of doing a duel, which this is a fun fact for anybody who's interested. LMM, when he was writing that song, he's told people that he was inspired. He also, that I'm going to nerd out for a minute as a history buff. The dueling commandments are a little, he takes some liberties with those. They don't actually do all that stuff in dueling, and there are actually like 25 rules of dueling, not 10, but whatever, nerd alert. Point is, when LMM wrote that song, he was inspired by the song 10 Crack Commandments by Notorious B.I.G.
Like it.
How dope is that?
I feel like I'd heard that before, but I love that tidbit. So good.
Oh my God. Notorious B.I.G., dude. Who doesn't love that dude? Anyway, so that was one of my honorable mentions in songs. So the moment that he duels, the moment he loses his son, and in the end, when he does the song, It's Quiet Uptown, is the name of the song. When he's like basically just like laying himself at the mercy of Eliza. Sorry, I have to do it. Every time he's just like he's like just pleading with her to just forgive him for all of the shit that he's done, and he did a lot of shit to like really fuck with her. She comes around and forgives him, and like they have this moment, and they're all together, and it's like, love, so sweet, forgiveness. So the emotional parts of the show, although they are few and far between, in between the comedy and the fun, like exciting theatrics, they're really impactful. So for a mostly funny show, the emotion is actually very raw and very real and very touching. So don't take it for just like a joke. There's some legit moments in there.
Yeah.
You were gonna say?
That
I'm calling on
that
you.
part you mentioned, yeah, I didn't raise my hand or do the point thing, but the part you mentioned in It's Quiet Uptown where she forgives him, that is the part that I lose it at and makes me tear up during it, is at that moment. Because I don't have a son, so obviously it's sad he dies, but it doesn't hit me as much as someone who has children, obviously. That's going to be a different emotion. Same with like my younger brother has kids. The Dear Theodosia song that Burr sings and Hamilton sings, that one gets him. He has a daughter and a son now and stuff like that. So it's like that one gets him, has different impact to different people. Yeah. But the part when it's they're standing there and it's she takes his hand, It's Quiet Uptown, they sing Forgiveness. And in the play, she takes his hand.
Is that what they're saying?
Yep. And then Hamilton just when she takes his hand and like accepts him and forgives him again, and then he starts breaking down and crying it. That's when I was just so emotional, and you almost feel like you kind of like you've gone through that journey with them and seen everything from it. So that's the part that gets me in that. So
totally. I mean, legitimately, I think one of the reasons that makes it a great show is that it has a little bit of everything. Right? It has a lot of comedy, there's a lot of emotion, some really sweet and endearing moments, some very trying, suffering moments, but also a lot of action, all of this fighting and boom, and like a lot of motion on stage, and there's a lot of dancing. So you get a little bit of everything in this show. It's not all emotional, all sad, all crying. It's not all hilarious. There's nothing serious. You get a little bit of everything. Makes it a great show. It's very well rounded. Also points back to LMM and his genius in writing, because he's touched on every single emotion you can possibly have in one show, and that's like so hard to do for human beings, and he's done it in one show.
Yep. And like you said, they acknowledge it, 'cause right after It's Quiet Uptown, which is the saddest and most so I'm gonna
I feel like you've been like in the trenches. When you got through that, you're like, oh, enough already.
Right after that, you have Jefferson going, can we get back to politics? And Madison has a tissue. Please.
Yes, please.
And so it's like they acknowledge it and then go right back into it. And it's so good. Now,
hilarious.
Before I get into some of mine, are you aware of one of the cut/reworked songs from it, First Burn?
First Burn? Yes. Like, is different from the song Burn?
Yes, different from the song Burn. The original version that they called First Burn had it was Hamilton and Eliza were both there, and it was very more aggressive, angry, confrontational towards him, and she's calling him out. I see how you look at my sister, stuff like that, and just very more angry and kind of just bringing him to task. And part of what Lin-Manuel Miranda said, why he changed it, he wanted that to be Eliza's song. He wanted that to be the focus on her. He didn't want Hamilton to be there and it be the distraction, and it to become, even though it's still like a song about him in a sense, the reworked version and the version that's in the show now is more like her feelings and what she's going through is the focal point, instead of Hamilton getting this lecture being the focal point. It's on Apple Music. I'm sure it's on Spotify too. It's called First Burn. And they used a bunch of the different actresses who played Eliza on Broadway record it. So there's like 4 different people singing it. It's really good. It's different. Highly recommend people listen to that.
I think that was it was probably a good choice in the end
I do too.
To do what they did, because if you haven't seen the show, then this is a part where Eliza finds out that Hamilton has basically cheated on her, and he's told the whole world that he's cheated on her as sort of a like covering his ass moment where he's like, I'm afraid this is going to get out, so I'm going to say this just in case it does. And he's almost like kind of losing his mind at that moment. And you see him just acting out of paranoia and stuff. And she gets obviously very hurt, whatever. So that's a little background story. But the story is, the song is about her basically burning all of the correspondence that they've had over the years and years and years and years they've been married. He's been writing her all these beautiful love letters, and she's kept every one. And it's like her attachment to him. She's so in love with him. And she burns them as like her, more than her protest against him, it's her protest against being remembered as the wife that got cheated on. I like that it's written in such a way that she says, like, I'm erasing myself from your narrative. It's like, I won't be remembered as this poor, pitiful woman that you cheated on, that you just like used to have money because like, I'm a Skylar sister. So you just married me for my money, and you used me, and then you went and slept with this other woman. Like, I refuse to be that person. Even though later in the show, later in the story, she comes back and says, I rewrote myself into the narrative because she forgives him, and they have this like beautiful reunion before he dies, and it's awesome. But the burn song is so cool because it's her moment to like, she should be like, F you, dude. Like you can't just like treat me like that, and I'm still going to be like enamored with you and think that you're so amazing, which I did before. However, I will say, based on what you've told me about First Burn, it's interesting that she actually does acknowledge his thing with her sister, which is super not cool. Can we just talk about that on both of their ends? The sister too. The sister's like, I've got my sister's back. I love her. She's always on my mind. I'll do anything for her. But meanwhile, I'm going to write like love letters and like correspondence with her husband. Not cool, dude. You can love him, but you got to love him from afar. You can be like, so it's interesting that in First Burn, she actually mentions that little illicit, it's not ever an affair, but it is a little bit of a longing and flirtation outside the marriage, which is not cool, especially with sister.
Yeah. And I will post, at least in the YouTube video, and I'll try to on podcast links, post the link to the official YouTube video for First Burn, because they did like a storyboard type thing with it too that has like some drawings. That's kind of neat that I've seen. And there's also just the recording of the actresses and the singers singing it. So I'll link one of those in here for people so they don't have to go searching if they want to listen to it.
Cool.
Okay. Any other key moments you wanted to talk about?
Yes, two more.
Before I steal it. Let's go. Let's go.
Satisfied was a song that Angelica sings. And that moment is pivotal in the show. It's the first time you see, like, even if you just take the context of the actual content out of the picture, it's the first time you see one of the visual aspects of the show really go crazy on stage. They rewind in this cool, like honestly, like they actually like rewind the record, and like you see people going backwards and doing things that they had done already, but they're doing it in reverse, and it's so cool visually. And then to hear, and I don't know her name, Renee
Elise Goldsberry, I believe.
That's her name. She's incredible. Her voice is incredible. It's so powerful, and her smile and her presence is awesome. But to find out that she's actually been in love with Alexander since before Eliza was, a moment before Eliza was, and that she decided not to pursue him because she had to marry rich, and she sized him up as like this like poor dude that she can't like love. So she gives him to her sister who's in love with him. It's sad. It's a sad, like a devastation that you feel for her. It's a loss that she's going through that she's never going to be able to fix. But visually, that is one of the coolest moments in the show. They stop everything and go like in the middle of her toast, rewind and tell her side of the story. I think it's done really well and like changes the whole like pace of the show. I think that's a great moment. And then the other one that I'll mention is King fucking George. Like, I just can't with him. I can't, because he is everything in that show. He has like 3 teeny tiny little moments, and they are everything. if you want to talk about comic relief, that's the perfect type of comic relief.
Mhm.
He literally comes in, has one little song that's about 30 seconds long each time,
Mhm.
making fun of America.
Yeah.
Da 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 da. It's just amazing. It's just this little moment, and then you gotta love him, even though King George in history was like real asshole and just like a serious, not a cool dude. They did such a good job of making him an asshole, but like a funny asshole, and like super posh and like kind of prissy.
Mhm.
And he does this whole thing about John Adams being president. Like, I know him.
Mhm.
It can't be him. They're gonna tear him alive or eat him alive.
Mhm.
I just love it. I love it, love it, love it, love it. I could use a whole show of just King George.
Yeah, Jonathan Groff just
It's so
crushes that
good.
in it too.
His facial expressions are everything too. Like,
Yeah, my first
so
exposure to
blue.
Jonathan Groff was in Glee. He plays the nemesis
Is
yeah,
it
of
plural or
them.
nemesis is one?
Just one. It's nemesis of the Glee Club. Jesse St. Clair, lead of Vocal Adrenaline. That was my first introduction to him. And then he is also Kristoff in Frozen.
Oh,
That character. And he is
really?
also in
I didn't know that.
the Netflix series Mindhunter, where he interviews serial killer show.
That's where
So
I've seen his face. I knew I'd
it's
recognize him. I
in
just didn't know
lots of
where I'd
random
recognize him.
stuff. Great voice,
Amazing.
hilarious. Him
Facial
and Lin,
expressions that
yeah.
kill you.
There's videos on YouTube of him and Lin-Manuel just fucking around. They're friends. They're hilarious together, and it's
I want to
entertaining.
hang out with that dude. That's what
Yeah.
the impression I get from King George is I want to hang out with that guy.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay,
All
so I've
right.
done mine. Now it's your
Okay.
turn.
All right. You hit some of mine. I tagged onto those. I'm looking at notes that I made because I made notes. So one of the things, Leslie Odom Jr. and Burr in general, Burr has some of my favorite songs and moments throughout it. One that I feel like is probably not on like anybody's one of my go-to songs or one they really like. For me is The World Was Wide Enough, which is primarily him singing, which is the one right after he shoots Hamilton in the duel. And he's
that's right.
kind
Yes,
of
yes, yes.
spreading it. It's like I hit him right between the ribs. I walked towards him. I mushered away and singing all of this. And then he kind of does a little bit of a refrain from Wait for It and just goes, the death doesn't discriminate.
Between sinners and saints. It takes and it takes and it takes.
Yeah. And he sings Alexander, he may have been the first one who died, but I'm the one who paid for it. I survived, but I paid for it. And talk about how I'm the villain in your history and all that stuff and going on. And that's one of my favorite things. Just kind of his arc comes full circle. And even from like one of the first things that sucked me into movie soundtrack is in the introductory song, Alexander Hamilton, right towards the end when Burr goes, and me, I'm the damn fool that shot him. Just, it gives me just like goosebumps every time. It's just that line. And at that point of the song, it just gets you hooked for it. Like I didn't know anything about the history and stuff going in. So that's what we're opening up. I'm just like, oh shit, we're in for something.
Yeah. Now you got to watch the whole show to see freaking Aaron Burr shoot Alexander Hamilton.
Yeah. So
which,
that,
by the way, side note, they actually did sign their letters to each other as A. Burr and A. Ham.
Nice. I like it.
That was cute. It's a good little extra little tidbit.
Yep. Nice. I love the cabinet battles. I think those are hilarious.
Fantastic.
Some great lines. Turn around, bend over. I'll show you where my shoe fits. All that shit. Wait for It. Wait for It's one of my go-tos. That's I love that song so much. Wish it was longer. So fucking short, but it's so good.
That's how I feel
That's
about
one of my
King George.
go-tos.
Like, why doesn't he have more songs and
That's
more of
fair.
what he's doing?
One of my favorite ones to attempt to sing along to very poorly is Guns and Ships, which is
Oh
the one where
yeah.
Lafayette comes back and is
Lafayette.
just going so fast. So
He's so
every
good.
once in a while I can somewhat hit it. But that's one. And then there's some, and I know he gets a lot of recognition for it, but Christopher Jackson as George Washington has such a powerful and such a damn good voice on it,
Yeah.
especially in One Last Time when he's singing that, when he's just so fucking good.
Oh, it is one
And
of those emotional moments where you're like, yes,
mm-hmm,
like he does it right.
mm-hmm.
You
He's
feel it
just
every minute as he's ending his reign as George Washington. You're like, he's going out big.
mm-hmm.
And you want him to have that moment. You're like, just do it, man. Do it. You do you. And he just kills it.
And I'm being very unfocused because like, oh, I like this one, I like this one.
Of
I like
course, we like the whole
fucking all
show.
of
I
them.
know.
Like
But I picked three.
nonstop is great. I know, I
Oh,
know.
I was like, shit, I just lost what I was going to say. I don't know. It'll come back to me.
So I'll do one last one then so that we can keep it good. And meet you to 3 and me to like 8.
Fair. That's how this podcast is. 70%
Exactly.
you. No, 80% you.
Is, and it's another Burr one mainly, is The Room Where It Happens. And that's another one that just the choreography and everything with that and Burr's emotion and just that feeling of being left out. And I feel like that's really where he makes the turn as the character from being a more passive, laid back to nope, Alexander's figured out how to play the game better now. I'm tired of being left out. I'm going to start inserting myself. Mm-hmm. And that's when he starts making the change, stops waiting for it as much, at which Hamilton's constantly telling him, why are you waiting?
Stop waiting.
Mm-hmm. And that's when he stops and he's just like, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to start making moves. I'm going to find shit to blackmail Hamilton with that backfires and all this shit. I mean, and doesn't, because then Hamilton blows up his own shit.
He blows his own life up.
Blows his own life up. But yeah. Well, and even I could pick any more, I said. But one, like my first listens through, Say No to This was one I always skipped. Like I listened to it the first time and then I'm like, I always skip that. But it's grown on me and it's become one of my favorites too. Just the whole thing. So good. The whole thing's just so good.
It's like, really good. And you have to pay attention to it. That's kind of why I love it. Like you can't just like put it on in the background and expect it to like keep your attention. You have to like pay attention to it. And that's going to maybe weed out some of the audience that would otherwise watch it. But I do feel like if you were paying attention and you getting what they're saying and they're understanding like the lyrics and stuff that they say. Also, I think that it's written in such a way that he uses the language. I think maybe your description said this, but he uses very modern type language, modern type speech and expressions to discuss something that happened a long time ago, obviously in the 1700s. Yeah. So you get a lot of that comic relief from like Jefferson or Lafayette and Hamilton making like snide comments and making like these expressions. And I think it was Lafayette. Yeah. When they're always trying to get Aaron Burr to say something. Every time they see him, they're always trying to like get him to like speak your truth, right? And he shows up at Hamilton's wedding, and he comes in and he's like, Burr, I didn't think you were gonna make it, and all the guys are drunk and they're teasing him, and they say, spit a line, Burr. And he says something to Hamilton, like totally ignores him, and Lafayette just goes, you are the worst, Burr. So I think that's so funny. And he does the same thing as Jefferson, the same actor, but he's fighting a different part. He does the same, like looks at the audience and says some things like, oh my God.
which that's an aspect we didn't touch on at all. And that's my ankle popping again. Is that they use the same actors since characters drop off. They give those actors a chance to do completely different characters with completely different personalities and everything in the second half. So you have in the movie, you got Anthony Ramos in the first half playing John Lawrence, who he dies at the end of Act 1. I need to stop saying halves. That's what's going to get people coming after me in the hate mail because they keep calling acts.
Acts.
And he plays Lawrence in the first act. Jesus, I just fucking said it. Then dies, then comes back and plays Hamilton's son, Philip, who also dies. And then you've got Daveed Diggs playing Lafayette, and then Thomas Jefferson. And then you have someone whose name I don't know playing Hercules Mulligan, and then James Madison. And just little parts like that. Who the actress who played Peggy is then playing the affair, Maria Reynolds, yes, that he has the affair with in the second half. So just little things like that they're giving those people a chance to show their range, like especially the actress who plays Peggy, Jasmine Cephas Jones. She has like nothing to do with Peggy. She says "and Peggy" and then has a couple lines in the first half. But then in that insane no to this, some of the notes and everything she hits belts are just so damn good and impressive that they just give her a chance to show her skills. So
it's not all she shows.
Some cleave.
She's like a whore in the second act. So
yeah, it's true. Okay,
whatever.
That's it for my notes with no number tied to them. Just whatever I wanted to say, because that's what we said in the intro. This is just our podcast. That's what I want to say. Hopefully, if you're watching or listening, you tolerate it. Ultimately,
or you just really love.
I'm gonna say what I want to say.
You're just like, I will listen to whatever garbage comes out of your mouth because I care about you as a person, or I like you as a person. But otherwise, it's bullshit.
I just need to get a better camera. So my blue eyes that look better than I can sucker people in like that. But
sure.
Rayleigh has offered to edit some too, but I don't think I can give up that power.
No,
I think I'm just.
You cannot have that full power constantly. Are you kidding me? I will not allow you to consistently make you look better than me. That will not happen. I need at least 50% of that power. I don't know that yet.
I just don't cut out my own stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm too lazy to cut out the ums. I think that about wraps it up for our synopsis on Hamilton.
Definitely
kind of discussion. Absolutely see it. We need to come up with some way of how we rate them. Yeah. I think if we want to do 1 to 10, if we say rent it, watch it, let's say
there's no renting anymore. Who rents anything? What is this, 1998?
You can rent things on like Vudu, YouTube, Amazon. You can rent them.
Stop.
It's digital rentals, but you can rent them. Okay,
Stop.
I think
You're making me feel old.
Let's do 1 to 10 on a movie. And then if you would recommend seeing it live, if you think there's ones, because there's some that I feel like we discussed, I think seeing it live is definitely preferred. There's also some stage shows though that it's not a rush to see it. It's like, if you get a chance, see it. I would rate Hamilton as a see it as soon as you can. Like if you have the opportunity, definitely go see it. Whether you are familiar with it, know it, go see it if you ever get the opportunity. I think maybe that's a thing. Even if you're unfamiliar with it, would you say go see it? Would you say only go see it live if you really like it? Or if you're indifferent, then maybe go see it. I don't know. Hamilton, I think, regardless, unless you're a racist piece of shit.
In which case, stop listening to this podcast. We hate you.
That's right. That's right. We disown you. I don't know. Our rating system needs a lot of refinement. These will also, these discussions and musical breakdowns will also gain more refinement as we go. Thank you for bearing with us in advance.
No idea what we're doing.
We're just gonna go 1 to 10. The movie version of Hamilton. What are you giving it?
Movie version of Hamilton, 1 to 10. All things considered.
You can use half numbers too.
8.2.
Okay. I mean, that's not.
I can't give anything number, a 10,
but I'll allow an 8.2.
You said that after I'd already decided, so it's too late.
You can use fractions of numbers. We'll just say that.
I already did, so yes, we can.
Okay. I think I'm trying to look at it somewhat objectively, not let my bias come in. And I think because just how much I love this, I want to instinctively give it like a 9.5 and a 10. But because of some of the stuff we discussed about Lin-Manuel Miranda, like I said, you see his passion come through, but because his voice is so unique and can be jarring.
Just give it a rating. I just gave it a rating
to everyone else.
Come on, just give it a number.
I've got to go with. I'm going to go with an 8.5.
Okay.
We go with my nice half numbers I said were allowed, and stick with that.
I don't play by your rules.
One up you a little bit, but I'm going to go with an 8.5. Again, you can't say I have to just give a number.
You have to. If you expect me to do it, you have to.
My podcast. I'm the captain now. Making lots of meme references this episode. It's going to keep the youngins listening. Meme references. Although both of those are very outdated.
You're not helping us.
I'm an old. I stayed out till midnight tonight. I was ready to come home at 9:30. I'm an old.
You're making me feel really old right now. Stop.
Yeah. All right.
Okay. Well, with that, what are we talking about next week? Let's talk about let's give them a little tease.
Tease. Just a heads up, we're recording some of these ahead of time and then releasing them. Both of us have crazy lives. We want to try to keep releases regularly. I think next week we will tackle Rent, the Jonathan Larson play. Lots of history on that one. That one we might need to break into 2 episodes. Just a heads up.
I can see that happening.
Very long. Sure. They have both a movie version and a Broadway stage recorded version. As they alluded to in this episode, you can probably guess which one I prefer. And that's one where there's a decent amount of changes and differences. So I can see us having a lot more to say about that one, and have a lot of familiarity. And it's been around for a while. So lots of thoughts. I think eventually maybe we'll even go a little weird with things. And we might even discuss the documentary they did on Jonathan Larson's life and the creation of Rent, because that is a fantastic documentary. I think that would be interesting to discuss, maybe on a mini episode, a little bonus one we'll throw in. And so
if you're a Rent fan, throw your comments in. If this is on the YouTube channel, throw your comments in and just tell us like what you want us to talk about Rent, and what you like, what's your favorite parts, what you don't like, what is it that you really relate to, which part do you like the Broadway, do you like the movie, your opinion of Rent, because I know there's a lot of people who are Rent fans that are probably not necessarily show tunes fans in general. They might have seen it,
true,
but they haven't seen others. So this is probably one that we can ask people for comments for.
That's true.
Definitely tell us what you like about Hamilton. What was your favorite moment, like songs, things that we didn't discuss, things that we didn't highlight, or things that we might have missed or didn't get to. let us know what your impression of Hamilton is, especially if you haven't seen it and then you watch it after this. We'd love to know what you think.
That's right. And definitely do not send this to Lin-Manuel Miranda because
He will murder us.
We are actually very big fans of his work.
Huge fans. We love you.
And I actually don't mind him singing in most things.
Shut up.
Rayleigh's
my
the
side
hater.
on this.
No, he's fantastic in The Heights. And I've heard he's really good in an animated squirrel movie.
He's not a squirrel.
Animated
Evo,
Pikachu.
It's really cute.
Animated
It's really
Evo.
cute.
It's cute. I've been told. Throw those comments down, like, subscribe, rate 5 stars, Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, Stitcher Podcasts, random motherfucking podcasts. All the podcasts. Yeah, do all that fun stuff. And we will see you next week when we go down once more for Rant. Thank you. Okay.
Agreed.
I'm going to do this. Okay. Next up.
Stop.
Wait. All fucked now.
Stop.
The sound spikes so I know when to cut it.
Okay, go.
I can't do it so fucking aggressively. Throw this off my head.
You turned my light off. It was so aggressive. You turned my lamp off.
Okay.
You better put all this shit in the bloopers, by the way. If you don't, I'm going to kill you.
I will.
Okay.
Okay. Damn it.
Okay. I'm sorry. Sorry.
I like it.
I'm trying to. Okay.
We're not ambitious enough to do weeks. Bear
No.
with us.
What's time for that?
Please. You don't want us every week either.